Okay, good morning. We're going to try this again. I think I had a little bit of a, might have been Comcast, just saying. Um, so, my name's Stacy Powell, and I run a website called The Finance Gym, where I help people get stronger with their money. And one of the ways we need to get stronger with our money is by making sure we protect our social security numbers and IDs and do the best we can to not have any kind of ID theft happen. So I did a video a few days ago about this Equifax breach and all the choices that we have to make as a result of that, and walk people through all the options. So you can go back and watch that. It details them. There's also an infographic that I posted that day that helps people. And one of the things, one of the top choices, I think, is to freeze your credit report. And it is what the kind of the utmost security experts are recommending. I don't think it's the right solution for everybody, but it is the right solution for a lot of people. And I didn't go into all the nitty-gritty details about it. And there's a whole bunch of nitty-gritty details. So if you're on the fence of whether or not you should freeze your credit report, I'm going to walk you through today some of what all that means. Like, it occurred to me, a lot of people don't know what our credit's used for. It's not just used for opening new credit accounts. And a lot of people aren't really sure then what that is going to entail. So I've done a ton of reading and jumped on boards and people that have had their credit frozen for a long time and the pros and cons. And I've done my best to summarize them, and I'm going to walk through all of that in this video. So the first thing I'm going to say is that this breach happened 3 months ago. So you do not need to put this on today's to-do list. You do need to put it on like this month's to-do list, I'm going to say, but not today's. You have some time to think through your options and talk about it with your partner and make a decision. Let me see. So let me walk through what your credit is used for. Of course, credit accounts, mortgages, all that sort of stuff, but there's a ton of other things. Government, so any kind of, not any kind of professional licensing, but some professional licensing, sometimes child support, insurance ratings for auto insurance and other insurances as well. Utilities, like if you have a 20-something that's doing a lot of moving around, this might not be a great option because utility companies use it. Things like DirecTV, if you're trying to get the best rate out of a company like DirecTV, they will check your credit. So there's all kinds of instances in which your credit is accessed that you need to think about when you think about these options. So what happens when you do put a freeze on? What that means is that no new businesses can access your credit report in trying to open up a new account. All of your existing accounts, which include your credit card companies, and I believe from everything I've read, existing relationships you have with insurance companies, they can also check your credit, which many of them do just as a matter of course. Like if you're a business owner, I know I was talking to a CPA this week, and he has a line of credit, and so his bank that holds the line of credit they check his credit every single year. So those kinds of things are going to keep happening. Interestingly enough, all the opt-in offers we get in the mail. So those opt-in offers, those are going to keep coming, even if you have a freeze report. So I thought that was kind of wild. Collection agencies are still going to be able to access your credit and post to your credit file. About those opt-in offers, by the way, as long as we're here and talking about them, if you want to stop receiving those kinds of offers in the mail, you can call 1-888-5-OPT-OUT or go to optoutprescreen.com and stop those from coming. Now, that also stops your opportunities to shop around for better rates and let people try to give you better rates, but keep that in mind. But if you follow my advice of not using credit, then you don't need those anyway. So I want to be clear about the cost of what happens. And it's different for every state. But if you live in California, it's $10 to put a freeze on. It's $10 to take a freeze off. I think it's $10 to put a freeze back on. It's $10 if you lose your PIN number. That said, Equifax, from the bottom of their hearts, is letting us do it for free. How nice of them. So what will happen is if you're going out to get new credit or need to unfreeze your account for any reason, you're going to have to find out from the company that you're working with which credit bureau they use and unfreeze that. You're going to have to do it ahead of time because they say it's usually a three-day lag time. So that's one of the kinds of pain in the butt things I think that we all need to think about. What else? Oh, yeah, so Equifax is waiving it. I think they're waiving unfreezes too. And if you've already frozen your credit with Equifax and paid the $10, they're going to refund it to you. If you really want to go chase that $10, I don't know that it's worth your time, but might just be a principle of the matter. So I think that's it. I've gone over cost, kind of why it's a pain in the butt, the time you have to wait, the fact that you do have to go through this. If you're the kind of person that hates those to-dos, then maybe freezing isn't for you. A few reminders about all of this. So even freezing your credit report isn't 100% safe. I did some statistical research about, hey, how often does this all really happen to us? And it was very interesting because, so ID theft, the last kind of big research done by the Bureau of, what was it? Bureau of Journal? I forget. Some government entity, is that 15% of people had suffered some kind of ID theft. But the theft of new accounts, which is I think the thing that we're probably most afraid of, is kind of 0.5%. So 1 out of every 200 of us have suffered that over time. So that's not a huge risk, but it is a risk. One of the interesting things I found in doing all this research, though, is that it's much more likely that you're going to have some other kind of theft, like government benefits. I think I mentioned on the other video, filing your IRS return super fast, because that is a big, huge thing right now. The government is behind the curve on fixing that. Also, medical theft, Medicare, Medi-Cal, all of that can cause a bit of a nightmare. And I'll post the picture of this infographic that I did that kind of shows what your risk will be of one of those kinds of things happening. And the other thing that I was reminded of in reading all of this is that, shocking as it may be, not every company checks your credit before they issue credit. So even though you put a freeze on, that doesn't mean you're 100% protected. You still need to keep an eye, either by buying some kind of ID theft monitoring service / insurance. Wow, I think that in the background there is a garbage truck. Couple of other things. Make sure anytime you're doing any of this that you're doing it on a secure computer. There's a ton of phishing going on. So if you have elderly parents or anybody in your sphere who isn't really on top of being careful what emails they open, there is a ton of phishing in reaction to this Equifax breach. So be super careful about that. I think that I might do another video in a week or two that talks about the specifics of purchasing some kind of ID protection. So I've been doing some research, but haven't done enough to really fully recommend at this point. But I can tell you what I'm leaning towards is for people that can afford $100 a year to just go ahead and do it. I had a long talk with somebody at ID Shield the other day, and I'll post the link to her site. I talked to her about my hesitancies around, okay, but you're then a part of Legal Shield, and I'm not really hip about Legal Shield. You swear you won't sell to my people Legal Shield, and she swore to me. But here's the thing. One of the other things that I added on that infographic is that if this happens to you, how much is it going to cost you in time and money? And the average, like the mean, literally the mean amount is $200. So for most people, it's $100, $200. Vast majority, it's under $1,000 in both hiring people to help you fix it and actual money lost. But if you're one of the unlucky few that is in that top 20-ish%, and those are the stories we read about in the paper, it's a massive amount of money. So I think it's worthwhile thinking through whether or not you want to buy this protection. I've heard that Costco sells a program as well. LifeLock is the one that is advertised out there the most. That does not mean they're the best. I think the important thing, if you're going to go out there searching, the important thing is the company that you hire to do ID monitoring and provide any kind of protection, they better, as a part of their product, have something that hands over a power of attorney to them if something happens and puts them to work fixing the problem. Because if you're the one that has to do that, it is hours and hours and hours of time lost. Plus, we don't really know how to do it. That's ID Shield's big thing, is they have licensed private investigators that go out and they know right away what databases to hit and where they have to go and what letters they have to write. For us to do it, it is a pain in the butt, which is why I think I've begun recommending it to people. Okay, and then the last couple things. In all the questions that I've been getting, some of the questions have been around, okay, but what about for minors? What about for kids under 16? And I'm going to do a separate video on that on Monday morning because here's the interesting thing, and I'm not done doing all the research, but the interesting statistic that made me go, wow. They're saying that kids are 51 times more likely to have their social security number stolen than adults. Now, something's not right about that number, because if 1 in 200 of us are getting hit, that means 1 in 4 of kids, and that statistic can't be right. However, I think it's worth looking at and understanding and walking through the options of how do we protect our kids. And there are definitely some horror stories that I've read out there as I've been doing my research. So a few other things. If you would like to stay in the loop and make sure you know when these kinds of videos are happening or when I'm sending out information, you can go to thefinancegym.com and sign up for my newsletter. In October, I'm going to start my first online course that helps people get stronger with their money. It's a 10-week course walking them through all the key steps of my book. If you want to be one of the first to find out when that's happening and when it's open, then go sign up for my newsletter. All right, have a great day.